Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art, a show that looks at the creative process by inviting artists to join us in a chat about their life and their art. My name is David Schrader, and with me, as usual, is my co-host, Linda Scheller. Come on in, Linda. Hello, I missed you last week. You were out getting culture or something.
Yeah, I was at the Prospect seeing the final show of Mother of the Maid.
How was that?
It was excellent. Yeah. It was really moving. It was a beautiful play.
They do a good job at Prospect Theater. So anyway, to get on with our show today, we have a very special guest, Robert Ulrich. He's from Modesto. Now he's, I don't know the exact town, but basically Hollywood. So it'd be interesting to hear about his journey from hometown to the big time. When he was here in town, he was a part of what I call the golden age of musical theater that seemed to form up around Paul Tischer and the Modesto Youth Orchestra. Modesto Youth, theater. So anyway, before I stumble through any more of this, let's get Robert on here and start the show. So come on in, Robert. Hey, welcome. Yeah. So maybe a place to start is, like I introduced you, the golden age of musical theater in Modesto. So
should I just start?
Yeah, tell us about that. Yeah.
Well, I know we had some pictures from before that, which doesn't matter at all. But if you want to put that up, I'll show the first picture and then lead into this. Is that
Sure, we can do it whatever feels right. Yeah,
however you want. I mean, the Modesto Youth Theater I got into when I was 17, and I first auditioned for their production of Music Man, which was incredible. And I got in it, and then my parents had planned this trip to Hawaii, and I had to drop out. I'd never dropped out of anything, and I quit. So I thought I'd never be cast again. Then the next year I auditioned, and in those days, Mr. Tischer used to post the understudy, or they were really not the understudies; they were like the backups. And I was the backup to Rolf. And then the guy that got it ended up not being able to do it. So I got it. So I was 17, singing You're 16 Going on 17 to a 16-year-old Debbie Myers. And that was my beginning with the theater. And I loved it so much. And that year I was elected president of it because it was a corporation. So I was president 2 years. And we did 17 performances. My parents saw every performance. It was so fun. And there's a picture of it. If we get in the pictures, they'll be in the order.
There we go. I think we're going to get them. There we go.
That's the first time I was ever on stage, which was Melanie Wyatt's mother wrote a show called Susie's Christmas Eve Dream. And I believe this was the second time it was done. Melanie was Susie. Everyone in the world that we knew was in it. And because I'd known Melanie since I was 4. And I was a pig. And that was my first time on stage. And that was done at the Modesto Junior College. And then after that, I started just doing backyard plays. My cousin Suzanne and I would write them and put them on, and Melanie and I and a bunch of the neighbor kids. That's one of them. That's called The New Myth that my cousin Suzanne, I think, wrote, or I wrote with her or whatever. And that's Melanie on the left. She was Hera, Queen of the Gods. And when Melanie and I were really little, I did Cleopatra. I was Mark Antony, and she was Cleopatra, and that was in my parents' and my grandmother's backyard, who lived next door to me.
So, which one is Melanie in here? Melanie
on the left.
On the left, okay.
And so then I just began continuing to produce. Oh, that's Melanie and I when we were really little. I had to put that in because Melanie and I went to grammar school, high school, or junior high school, junior college, and college together. And we met, like I said, when we were 4. So then I began just writing plays and movies. And in high school, we wrote this movie called Butterspot that Melanie was also in. I think it might be the next picture. And oh no, that's Sound of Music. So Butterspot. Well, before that, I did this movie called Butterspot, which we wrote and shot. My parents took us all over. We shot it in San Francisco and in the mountains in Bear Valley. And then we charge people to come see it. It was really pretty adventurous. But anyway, that was Sound of Music. That's what I was talking about earlier. That was, I was singing 16 Going on 17 to Debbie. And we ended up doing that for years and years for community functions long after we should have been singing 16 Going on 17. That was a fun production. Margaret Grimaldi was Maria, and she was an incredible actress. I think Margaret, incredible. She's still around, I think, doing theater. She was. And then Corrine McLaughlin Cyphers was the Mother Abbess, and she was also spectacular. Years ago. And so
how many years did you sing 16 Going on 17?
Till our 30s. It was ridiculous. I remember the last time we're like, we cannot do this again.
The magic of theater and makeup.
After high school, after doing Sound of Music, because I was 17, I started college at 17, MJC, and I auditioned, and that was a play called The Psalms of Two Davids, directed by my friend Bob Rowe's dad, Don Rowe. It was such a beautiful set and beautiful lighting. And I got the lead, and it was fun. I don't think it was necessarily probably a very good play, but it was really fun to be doing a new play. And I was David from the Bible, and I had to learn to fake the lute and sing all the Psalms and stuff. So that was a good experience. And then I did a few shows at MJC. Then I decided that I didn't want to, I had to be smart and should not be an actor, which I'd wanted to be from the time I was 4 years old. So when I went away to UOP, which I went to MJC for 2 years, then to UOP, then I completely changed my my focus, and I was going to maybe go into law or dentistry. I'd applied to school as a pre-dental major. Anyway, I was at UOP, and I was basically an English major. And my senior year, I was in a fraternity, and a bunch of my fraternity brothers and I drove to Warnerville, and they were shooting a movie called Nickelodeon, which was a big deal because Peter Bogdanovich at the time was kind of the preeminent director, and it was Burt Reynolds and Brian O'Neill and John Ritter and Tatum O'Neill after she just won the Oscar. So it was a big deal movie. And we went to an interview to be an extra for the day, and all my friends got extras, and I got chosen by the cinematographer to be John Ritter's stand-in. Then when I went back to work the next day, he thought I looked more coloring like Burt Reynolds, so I was moved to Burt Reynolds stand-in. So I did that movie for 6 weeks, and I missed my last 6 weeks of college. I actually had to graduate with a blank diploma. But during the movie, and that was amazing because as a stand-in, I think it's the next picture. As a stand-in, you learn, oh no, somehow they're out of it. That's right. Oh, because that was, well, that's fine. That's on the town, which I'll get to in a sec. As a stand-in, you learn, when everybody's kind of pushed away, you're there watching the rehearsal and everything. So I learned so much about the movie business. And I met a girl who was a training assistant director, Margie Dale, and she talked me into moving or told me I should move to LA. And so as a result, I suddenly decided this is what I want to do. So that's how I got to Los Angeles the first time. That is on the town. I did that during what you call the golden years of Modesto Youth Theater. That was with Brian Beltran and Terry James. And the memories of that are just so incredible because, first of all, you're getting to sing the Bernstein score. And then, it was just so fun. And they were two of my best friends and have remained two very close friends. Terry was in my wedding, and he's gone on to do such big things in theater. And then Karen Locko, I think, is the next slide. She and Diane Moe were also in it. And Karen Locko played opposite me. That was Carried Away. And she was just such an extraordinary talent. To this day, Karen is my all-time favorite voice. And that's over like Lady Gaga.
Right.
My favorite voice of all time.
Yeah.
And being able to have her sing Some Other Time to me every night was just, something I'll always treasure. So that was great. And Karen has gone on, she sang at both my parents' memorials, to be honest. She's
very talented. I've done shows with her too. She's incredible.
Talented.
Yeah, very much. So just to interrupt a second, this
oh, please interrupt.
deciding you know, what you're going to go into, you know, and giving up on acting, thinking that you wouldn't do that, and then coming back to that. Is there more to that story? I mean, what was going on in your head?
I just wanted to be successful, and you know, at that time, especially coming from Modesto, I just didn't think that acting was even a reality. And so I was trying to be responsible when I went from MJC to UOP. But then I realized once I was on a movie set that this is what I'd always wanted to do, and so that changed my life completely. You know. So. And I moved to LA, and I was not successful in LA at all. Margie got me an extra in a couple movies. I was an extra on Mae West's last movie. And I went to Northern California, was an extra on a Gene Wilder movie that Brian Beltran, one of the sailors, was also an extra on. But when I was living in LA, it's one reason I think that I've gone on to really try to help younger people. Also because my parents always were helping younger people. But for me, I know my parents would have done anything for me, but they just didn't know anything about show business, you know? So I realized how hard it is to get started in Los Angeles. And even with somebody helping me, I just, you know, I was just not floundering, but I was just spending my parents' money, to be honest, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'd gotten a job finally as a magician at in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And they were having auditions for West Side Story in Modesto. And I'm like, well, if I get Tony and West Side Story, I'll move home and do that, which I wanted so bad. And if I don't, I'll go to Hershey, Pennsylvania. And then I got Tony and West Side Story. So back to Modesto, that brought me home after being in LA, not very long, several months, but not real long. I think I don't know what the next slide is, to be honest.
Would it be West Side Story? I don't know.
Well, no, I think because these are kind of out now. I'm just,
oh no, there you are with
Burt Reynolds. And then the next slide, I think, okay, during the movie, I took that out to save time, the slide. There was one day on shooting Nickelodeon, they were doing a hot air balloon scene, and they had people riding in the back of an open truck. And the weather turned out to be appropriate for that day. So Bogdanovich made the decision to shoot it that day. Well, he didn't have his stuntmen there that day. So I did it. And it was probably so illegal. And I rode around in the back of this truck. And as a result, many years later, a letter from the producer, that's what got me my Screen Actors Guild card, shockingly. So that was weird. Anyway, then I went back to Modesto after doing, where did I lose? Oh, after moving to LA. And I auditioned for MJC's Oklahoma. And I'd done Oklahoma with Mr. Tischer in the golden years in a great production as a dancer. And then I was Will Parker in this picture, and I was with Penny Sweeney, was my Ado Annie. And that was fun. And it was also fun. You know, I danced in so many shows, and I was not a great dancer, but I danced in a lot. But suddenly I was working with a different choreographer than Mr. Tischer or Melanie, whatever. And I remember that was hard. And I can't remember her name. I think it might have been Michelle Aiken, maybe. Is that it? But anyway, she was very good. But it was just, you know, it was interesting to work with somebody that I had not been working with. And I think the next picture, I also, I did The Boyfriend with John Durner. And I think, did you know John Durner? I think he was.
I do.
Yeah, I think he was the most, I honestly think he was one of the, I've worked with a couple geniuses, and I think he was one of them. I think he was just
absolutely
extraordinary.
Absolutely. Right.
And this production, in a way, I think is one of the best things I ever did, because I was just so relaxed. It was just very, and Madeline Meckler, now Madeline Meckler Young, she was incredible. And she played opposite me, Polly, to my Tony. And I'd met her in, she was Lori in Oklahoma with MJC. And that show was just jam-packed with talent. And John did all the sets and costumes and choreography, and it was so fun.
Wow.
So that's that.
Yeah. My experience with John, though, was that he was such a genius. He rewrote the music as the show was going on.
Oh, I know.
And it became very confusing sometimes.
No, he was definitely a unique, out there human being, but I just loved him, and I thought he was just so good.
Yeah, he really was. I appreciated him.
I would drive to Modesto all the time in those days, and every time I drove back from Modesto, I talked to John driving back, and we would just rehash all the old shows because I saw him do all his New Player Forum shows, which I loved. I was in one, Bye Bye Birdie, but I wanted to be in more, but I was so ingrained in Modesto Youth Theater that I just couldn't. So
yeah, okay. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I always enjoy hearing these stories about, it's not magic. It isn't one day you're here and one day you're there. It's a journey. It's a struggle, back and forth.
No, for sure. And keeping the main advice I have to everybody is I wanted to be an actor. That's what I wanted to be. Even though I wrote and directed and everything, I wanted to be an actor. And I think that people don't realize how many incredible jobs that you feel a part of the show, whatever, whether it be any show, live or film and TV, that don't involve acting. And I say always keep yourself open because that's when I get to that. That's me changing my career. But yeah, I just loved I love show business. I love the entertainment business, and I finally discovered that I love that more than I love wanting to be an actor. That combined with me wanting to be successful because I was a loser. I was not successful as an actor. Moved to LA, to New York.
Well, yeah.
Probably Disneyland, I would think. Is that it? The next picture? Yeah. So I through my friends, Jim Spivey, people I met on Oklahoma, Candy Chamberlain, people that I knew, I went to Stanislaus State and began singing with the choir with Dr. Gary Enru, and then eventually did voice lessons with Marge Denning there. And a bunch of friends, we went to the Bay Area, I believe, one day to audition for Disneyland. They were casting the All-American College Singers and a street theater group. And a bunch of us went, and Holly Butler, who had been my girlfriend and was my good friend, or maybe at that time she was, I don't know, but we were boyfriend and girlfriend. She got cast in Florida as one of the street theater, and I got cast in Disneyland as one of the 6 boys, as one of the All-American College Singers. And that was an incredible experience because they put us up, they paid us. We performed 4 shows a day on a theater that I don't believe is there anymore, an outdoor theater. And it was like, some of the best musicians writing our charts. And we did like a country section, a rock and roll section. This was us singing California Girls, Beach Boys. That's me on the right. And it was Mickey's 50th birthday. So we got to do a final number with Mickey Mouse. So, and they've all remained my good friends. In that picture, Trip and Tim are very, very close friends still. So it was a great experience.
Wow. Yeah.
And then after that, I think is when I came back. Yeah. So I came back and I decided if I was really going to take this seriously, I wanted to go to New York and be an actor in New York.
Of course.
So I decided to do that. I should try to have something to fall back on. So I went back to school and I went to Stanislaus State and got my master's there. And I was able to do a program. It was in the English department, but I was able to do it with an emphasis on film and theater. So right off the bat, I auditioned for Camelot. And the only reason I'm even bringing that up was that because I don't think I was very good at all as Lancelot, but my people were great. Denise Wind and Ron Faria, they were wonderful. But I met my wife during that because she was a makeup artist on that, and that's how we met. So we dated that year. And then at the end of the year, for my master's thesis, I wrote on Cat in a Hot Tin Roof, but I also directed Cat in a Hot Tin Roof. And that is one of the things in my life I'm the most proud of. And I remember Leo Stetson said it was like the most impressive directing debut. It was really good. And my cast in that was amazing. And Scott Elliott and Anita McCombs were Maggie and Brick. Everybody was great, but they were just, stupendous. So that's something I'm very, very proud of. And my wife designed that poster.
Oh, well, so she's multi-talented too.
Incredibly. She's much more talented than me. I mean, she's really talented because she is she could have been a great florist. She was an art major. She'd be a great artist. And she's an actress, but she's really good at everything. She used to make all her own clothes. She's very talented. So I graduated from Stanford, and that was the first time in my life I'd ever studied because I was a terrible student. I was a terrible student at UOP. I was a terrible student. You know, I would often get good grades because I would do artistic projects or, you know, but I was not a good student. The first time I really learned was in my master's program. And my Aunt Alice would help me type on my papers and help me write my, she was amazing. She was like going to a coach for everything. But yeah, so that was great. And I graduated from there. And as soon as I graduated, it was the first summer I hadn't been in MYT for years. And I know I haven't said, well, I'll say it now. This was the first time that I think it's the next picture that Mr. Tischer had ever let anybody other than himself direct something. And I should say something about Mr. Tischer before I forget.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Mr. Tischer, to show the impact that he had on me, I still call him Mr. Tischer.
I noticed that. I noticed that.
To call him Paul. So, but you know, I said it's something I spoke up for him recently that anybody that could keep a theater group going that long, Granny's had help and my parents were a great support. But it's solely because of him and his persistence and, you know, the fact that we were able as kids to sing with these incredible orchestras and these you know, it was just an experience beyond belief, and these beautiful sets and costumes and lighting. And but the thing that I owe the most to him, well, I was going to say discipline, but I also learned discipline from my parents. So, but was discipline in theater, but he provided an opportunity for me to make so many of my lifelong friendships. And that is something I'm just forever grateful for him for. And he's, you know, he was like a family member. He had Christmas with us, Easter's with us. He's a really, is
this a picture of his, is that the 25th?
No, this is before the 25th. This is when, like, I don't know what year this would have been, but right after I graduated from college, he let me direct this showcase. The only thing he had to do with the whole thing was he had to give the title. It was called A Showcase of Talent, but everything else, he didn't come to rehearsals. He never saw anything until it opened. And Candy Chamberlain was the musical director. Melanie was the choreographer. Dennis Clark played the piano, and we had a combo. My wife did the costumes, but it sold out the entire theater. I mean, we're talking, you know, because usually the shows have spaces they don't sell because of royalties. It sold every seat. We did it one night. I went off to Europe and sang with a choir with Dr. Andrew and all my friends, and came back, and they had decided we did it one other time there and one time in Sonora at Madeline Meckler School. And the one other time that we did it here, it sold out with 38 people standing against all fire. You know, I mean, it was a huge hit, and Leo had missed it. And when I was in Europe, we were reading these reviews because he'd gotten so many things sent to him. It was like, it starred, you know, it was Paula Reddick and Don Reichert and Jim Fay. I mean, plus Candy and Melanie and Terry and all of us. It was Karen Locko, everybody. And this number, the night it was going to open, we worked so hard on it. And there was a ballet, 3 women singing at the ballet, and then there was a ballet with Karen was singing with Mark Siciliani and Holly Butler, and we were at the Modesto High to do one last rehearsal, and somebody came in and told Mark that his brother had died that day in a hang gliding accident, and it was just so overwhelming. I remember I went to Melanie's immediately, and I was like, you know, it was that selfishness of thinking the show's going to go away, and then being distraught for my good friend Mark, and I knew his brother. It was all just terrible. And then we got a call that Mark and his mother and the family decided he should do it, and they were going to come. So we went backstage before we went on. I remember there was beautiful speeches, and Mike Johnson led us in a prayer, and it was very moving. We went on stage, and that was the first number, Comedy Tonight. And this became kind of Melanie. I think one of her signature things was what'd she call it? I suddenly can't remember. Anyway, we did it right then. And when we did it in that moment and the audience just went berserk, that was one of my highlights of my theatrical career and my life. It was really a very moving moment. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. We missed West Side Story. I think I have pictures of West Side Story, which was before this. if you want to play that.
Well, let's see what do we have up next here.
I don't think it is.
Was it related to it? No.
No, it would have come before.
Oh, okay, okay. I think she's queuing it up now.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I missed that. I think I was.
It was
I was in town when you did that.
Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us, stars will stop where they are. Today the minutes seem like hours, the hours go so slowly, and still the sky is light. Oh, moon, grow bright, and make this endless day, endless night.
So that was also one of the best theatrical experiences of my life. And other than Maria, where I never hit the high B flat, other than the one time when I auditioned, I think I sounded pretty good. And the cast was so good. I mean, Mark Siciliani, Karen Laco, this guy Tony Verab, who was Mark's friend, played Riff. Allison Williams, who was only 15. I mean, it was a really, really, really great production. Jim Fay played Doc. It was great. Anyway, so that's one of the things I'm proud of. So.
Yeah, well, you sounded good.
Yeah, no, I did on everything except for Maria. I said it really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that I think so. Next is probably me. I think I'm done with Modesto. I think I'm maybe. What's the next picture? I forget my life. I have to follow along with the picture.
Oh, okay.
Know where I'm at.
So anyway, you went from there to whoa. You got married somewhere in there.
I moved to New York, and when I'd been in LA for that short time, I had taken this acting class, and it was the most amazing thing ever. And I mean, our lectures were like Richard Dreyfuss about Jaws, and Rocky had just come out, and Sylvester Stallone was supposed to show, and then they said he couldn't make it. They showed the movie, and then he walked out at the end. That was one of the most exciting moments ever. But Lee Strasberg had lectured, and I was also an old Hollywood buff. So I moved to New York to study with Lee Strasberg. And then when I got there, I found out that you had to, I think it was like a 2-year course or something, and I wasn't going to stay 2 years, cut to 5.5 years later. So I didn't study there, but I studied with Herbert Berghoff's studio, and tried to make it as an actor, lived there for a year, dated Kim bi-coastally, went home and got married. That was our wedding. And then she moved to New York, and her career took off immediately. She had worked in the bank, and so one of the, I mean, I was a model in the fact that I did like 2 modeling jobs because I wasn't tall enough or anything, but she signed with my modeling agency, and then immediately she, progressed to bigger agencies. And we did 2 jobs together. And one of the jobs was they were taking stock pictures to go in frames. So we got pictures of us, which is really great to have now, like all over Central Park, and it was really wonderful. And this was one of the pictures. And at that Christmas, we walked into a store, I think in Modesto actually, and there were just like 100 frames, and that was in it. And that's the frame in the picture that I just bought the frame. And so that's fun to have from there.
Oh, absolutely.
She was a model, and she was very successful as a mainly lingerie. And then she started acting classes. Anyway, she got on soap opera As the World Turns, and she was very successful, and NBC put her under contract. So we decided to move home, and that's when we moved back to Modesto. Right before,
I don't know if it's appropriate here, but I heard a story about her lingerie modeling career.
What'd you hear? Anything's appropriate. What'd you hear?
No, about the Playboy channel or something like that.
Great story. Yeah, one of her jobs was that she did a lot of corsets, and this was with a very big photographer, and she went in and she leaned over a TV and did the corset, and then cut to, it was Christmas that year, and I think we'd only been married a year, and we went home, we were watching TV in my parents' bedroom, and the Playboy channel had just come, and it was at the Turlock Fair, so it wouldn't have been Christmas because it was around the fair. and people were picketing the Playboy channel, and it said lewd and lascivious sex, and Kim's picture came on the screen, and she was the poster girl for the Playboy channel. There was a Playboy bunny sign in the TV. It was very funny. So yeah, that was a good So I decided to, I'm just racing because I want to get to my casting career, and everyone's waiting.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So I was in New York, and I thought I was the biggest loser, and one of my friends, Rob Schiller, who was a TV stage manager at the time, he convinced me to move to take a stage managing job. He said, help me. I said, I know nothing about stage managing. So he got me a job at a place called the Equity Library Theater, which was a fairly prestigious little off, I don't know, Broadway house in New York. And they were doing their anniversary production was Comedy of Errors. Well, I knew nothing about stage managing, but Margaret Rose, when I did Showcase of Talent, Margaret Rose and Aaron Parker helped me so much on Showcase of Talent. And Margaret Rose, who's gone on to write musicals, and you should do something on her. She's amazing. She had been a professional stage manager. So Margaret was in New York. She came all the time I was stage manager, and she would talk to me in the headpiece and tell me what to say. I mean, I acted my way through stage managing, and I did really great at it, thanks to Margaret. And so then when I came to LA, I had a job as a stage manager, and that fell apart. And my wife's manager's wife, we went to dinner, and she was a casting director. And so I said to Kim, do you think it'd be weird if I interviewed for a casting job? She said, not at all. So I did, and that's how I got into casting. Oh. And then I worked with her for a while, and because I knew nothing, she demoted me the first day from associate to assistant, rightfully so. And so, but I still learned a lot. And then I went into public relations, and I eventually went back into casting. And I'll get to my casting career, but the last kind of theater thing is that I know that Kim was pregnant with my son Cooper, because the entire 9 months, Margaret was in New York, I was in LA, and Anne Fraley was in San Francisco. And we organized this 25th reunion show for Modesto Youth Theater, or Modesto Performing Arts, it was then. And that turned out so great. You were in that, David. Yeah, you were in that.
25th, yeah.
Yeah. And it was incredible, and it was so fun. And Melanie again choreographed, Margaret Zabel and John did the music. John did all the arranging, and they played. And Candy Chamberlain was the musical director again, and wonderful. And it was just, I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody, but it was really, really fun. So anyway, and my wife brought my new son to the room. Like, don't ever do that, because I was literally tied up every night trying to work as a casting director and putting a show together from afar. So that was.
So you just jumped in this like, hey, I just went into casting. I started when I started back after I'd worked with Pam Dixon. I was public relations for a while, and then I interviewed and I got a job with Reuben Cannon, Reuben was the premier casting director in Hollywood at the time, premier Black casting director in Hollywood at the time. He just finished The Color Purple. And so I became like his right-hand person, and he was incredible. Reuben either trusted you or he didn't. And if he trusted you, if he didn't, you couldn't even answer the phone. If he trusted you, you did everything. And so I was thrown in, and I knew nothing. And my first job was I did the voice casting for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I would drive over to Amblin and meet with Robert Zemeckis, and it was crazy, but I did that. That was my first thing. And then I worked for Reuben for 2 years. And Eric Dawson, the guy in the picture there, he was from Nebraska. He came out, started working for Reuben, and pretty soon Eric and I were Reuben's associates. And after a couple of years, we said, we can do this. So we went off on our own. And Carol Kritzer, who had been an assistant, I believe, and now she was working as a secretary at a big agency in Hollywood, ICM. We called her, and Eric and I became Ulrich Dawson Casting, and eventually that became Ulrich Dawson Kritzer Casting with Carol. And we took
the Viacom account from Ruben, but in a nice way. We paid him a percentage, and we love Ruben. He's the best. And many years later, we very luckily we've been up for 8 Emmys, and we won one, and I won for Glee, and that was Glee.
Wonderful. So just to stop and reflect for a minute, you know, your goal was to become an actor, and then, you know, you drop these lines like, "Oh, I wasn't very good," or "I didn't make it," or "I was a loser as an actor."
Well, I wasn't. I was a very good classroom actor. I mean, I was good. I think I was, you know, pretty good in West Side Story and pretty good in The Boyfriend. I mean, I'm pretty good in On the Town. There's a few things that I was good in, but I was not, and I was a terrible auditioner. But what I am now is an amazing reader because I don't have any of the pressure. Once you remove the pressure, then I was great. You know, it was all about nerves and all the confidence that I have as a casting director, I did not have as an actor.
Okay. So it was a natural, comfortable transition.
It was so unbelievably comfortable considering that I'd always wanted to do it. And I think that was largely because my wife was getting so much success and I was living vicariously through her and enjoying every one of her successes. And that's when I kind of decided to quit because I realized one day I was taking her pictures, taking them in to be printed. And I'm like, I'm managing my wife. I'm not really even pursuing acting much anymore, you know? So it was a very easy transition. Okay. I've never missed it once. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what was going on in your head at the time, you know?
Not once.
Okay.
And we did our first big account was Viacom. So I did Matlock, and Kim did 3 Matlocks because she was an actress. So obviously she's an actress, is an actress. I did Diagnosis Murder. I did Jake and the Fat Man, all those shows for Viacom. And then right off the bat, we got Eric and I, a show called Erie, Indiana, which was a very critically acclaimed show. So suddenly we got a good show. I mean, not that those other shows were great and I loved them. And Eric and I joke, we know more about what we did in those days with Matlock because we were so invested. But Erie, Indiana was a well-reviewed show and everything. So we got a cool show, which allowed us to get other cool shows, you know?
Yeah.
And that was due to
So I don't know if you had this as part of your, you know, going through it, but tell us about, you know, casting Glee. I mean, you won an Emmy for this. This is what casting is all about. You know, it's something a lot of us don't think about.
Yeah. Well, I've been very fortunate in my career to have, because I've done a million things which haven't gone, you know.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate to have some kind of cult shows. One I did was Battlestar Galactica. Eric and I did. One I did was Supernatural, which just ended. And now I have The Boys, which is on Amazon. They're all kind of shows that have rabid fan bases, almost like my wife's soap opera fan base. You know, and then I did Glee. And I was very fortunate to get Glee because because Eric had done most of the stuff with Ryan Murphy prior to Glee. I had done everything with Ryan Murphy prior to Glee. And Glee wasn't just like a show. It was like, it became a global phenomenon. And I was so proud of it because it was changing everybody's lives and saying it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be the nerd. It's okay to, you know, you can fit in wherever you fit in because you are special as who you are. And I think that for that reason, I think Glee really did a lot of good for the world and for a lot of teens that were struggling with all kinds of things, you know.
It was an amazing show.
And the fact that I was able to cast, they didn't care about names. So it was all about discoveries. And Chris Colfer, and I've told the story a million times, but who played Kurt, there wasn't even a role for him. He came and he was so special that I took him to Ryan and he walked in and Ryan said, "Oh, how many times have you done Sound of Music?" Because he looked like he was a Von Trapp child. And he said, you know, 7 or something. And he said, "Okay, you're Kurt." And he came up with the name on the spot. And so that was very cool. And yeah, the whole thing, it was a great experience. And from Glee, I got the biggest gift ever, and that was the Glee Project. And that was just, you know, and that made me realize that I think that satisfied a lot of my acting stuff because I was on camera. And I did not know I was going to be on camera. I'd done the nationwide search and everything. I didn't know I was going to be on camera until the day I was on camera. I mean, it's like I had no idea that I was in the show like I was in it. And, you know, it was craziness.
Yeah, it's your show.
So nervous that first day. And luckily, Darren Chris, I was am friends with, he was a mentor that day, and he was very helpful. And I swear, once I made it through the first day, I was just relaxed. And I had been nervous public speaking up until that point. I was a terrible public speaker. And yeah, for whatever reason, it worked. I think there's a couple of Glee Project videos I can talk about.
Probably, yeah. Before we get to that, you know, what's the art in casting?
Well, you know, I'm so bad at that question because I don't think that there is. I think, you know, I just think I think you have to have good taste, but taste is subjective. I think you have to have talent, but talent is subjective. You know, I mean, so those things are just, so you have to be in line. Excuse me. Our job is to be in line with the producers we work for, because that's ultimately the producer, studio, network are who I want to make happy. And I want to do that with still bringing in people and casting people that I think are appropriate and talented and all that. But I just, you know, so that, I guess that's it. I mean, I think because I was an actor, I think it's made me a better casting director. But both my business partners, who are extraordinary casting directors, they weren't actors. So, you know, but they studied it like they were studying. I mean, I said Eric studied television at that time, like he was going to med school, and Carol audited acting classes. I mean, so I just think I had a little bit of a head start, but that's all. You know, I think that you don't have to have any talent to be a casting director. You don't have to have any degree. You just have to be good at your job, you know.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, there is some art to it. I mean, you know,
I'm very proud. I'm so proud of what I've done. Don't get me wrong. And I'm especially proud when people have done well that I have basically in many cases found. I mean, some of them had done nothing before they either came in for me or were on the Glee Project, whatever. They'd done really nothing, you know. And I'm very proud of that. But I also think somebody said the other day, "Why have you been so successful?" And I think, and this goes for my partners, I work really hard. No one works harder. And that I can say, no one works harder. I'm nice about it all. I think I have good taste. I'm very knowledgeable. I have such a knowledge of the film and television history, you know, because I'm really more into movies than anything, more than theater or more than TV, even though I'm a TV casting director. My love is movies. But I've been lucky. I've been lucky to work with people on great shows, because if you don't get that, you know, so I've been really fortunate that I have Ryan Murphy to thank, and I have Eric Kripke and Gail Berman and people that have, Dan Suckheim, people that have stuck by me and hired me over and over. You know, I'm very fortunate, you know, for that. So
you said no one works harder.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your day like when you work hard? What are you doing
now because of COVID? But I used to go to the office during pilot season and not get home until 2 or 3 in the morning, and that's no lie. That is the truth, you know. And actually, with COVID, my day never stops. I mean, I'll get calls at 9 at night or the weekends. I mean, it's just, you know, so my day is like tomorrow, I'm starting a new pilot tomorrow. It's a spin-off. It's a prequel to Supernatural. And I'm very excited about it because I'm very proud of that show and that experience. And so I'll be getting a breakdown out, which is how that goes to all the agents so that they know, you know, who to submit. And I'll be, what else will I be doing tomorrow? My mind's blank. I also have an incredible team. I mean,
so once you get the breakdown, then what do? You go into your knowledge of who you know, and
you have your knowledge and your history and your books and your lists, but then you also get within minutes thousands of submissions online. There used to be photographs, now they're online submissions. So then you go through all the pictures, you decide who you want to audition, you set up the auditions, they audition, then you do callbacks, and that's how it all happens. So, and all done now via Zoom.
Really? Wow. Has that changed things? You know, doing the Zoom setup in real life? I mean, that's got to be a different experience.
It's changed things, but I was very opposed to it, and I'm not opposed to it at all now because it's worked really well. And the truth is that film and TV is looking at somebody like this. So you know, it's worked out very, you know, sadly, it's worked out very well because I love being in person in an office. I like that whole experience, meeting the actors and all that, and that's gone. But there's positives too, and it's working out well.
We have a question from a viewer.
Sure.
Anna Conley asked, do you have any advice for a young actor?
Oh.
She moved to LA from Modesto a few years ago to pursue a screen and music career.
Oh, for music. Well, music is the hardest thing. It's harder than acting. I think it's very, very difficult to have a music career. And I obviously know about it, but I'm not as well versed about being a getting in the music career as I am. My advice would just be, you have got to believe in yourself. You have got to be able to take rejection constantly, because you'll get rejected. You'll have so many more no's than yeses. And I think that I always like somebody who is interesting. Like when I would do my generals, which I still do, even though they're on Zoom now, when somebody just meets me, I never hardly ask about what have they done, or I ask about, you know, their life and what do they like as people, you know, and that is what it all, you know, I don't know, I'm not saying this very well, but I think that's why I think being a well-rounded person makes you a better actor and an interesting actor. If you have something interesting about yourself, I'm drawn to that more than talking about when you did, you know, Tony and West Side Story, even though I'd probably be interested in that because I did it, but I mean, you know, so yeah, so I think it's just and having another skill that you can do, because you're probably not going to make any money in acting for a long, long, long time, if ever. And so you better really love it and want to do it more than anybody else. So that's my advice.
You have to. Yeah. Before we took this little break, you said you had another video.
I think there's a video of the Glee Project, because I do want to
Glee Project, yeah.
People from that I'm extraordinarily proud of.
See if we can find this and get it loaded. Yeah. No, I remember. I was fascinated by the show.
It was really good because it really did give you an idea of what I did every day as casting, just heightened, you know. So this is the first season. We saw Lindsay Pierce, who's from Modesto, and my wife and I had judged the first Valley's Got Talent that we did. She won, and she is obviously extraordinary. Now she's Elphaba on Broadway, and even though she didn't win the Glee Project, she was on 2 episodes of Glee. I mean, and her voice is like, I mean, to die. I mean, she's a great actress. So I could not be happier for her and more proud of. You should do this on her.
Yeah. Could you say her name again?
Lindsay Pierce.
Okay.
And she's right now starring as Elphaba on Broadway. She kind of made history by being the first Elphaba back on Broadway after the pandemic. And I mean, you couldn't necessarily tell from that video, but her voice is one of the all-time best. I mean, she's extraordinary. And then Alex Newell, he ended up on Glee too, didn't win the Glee Project, but ended up on Glee the whole rest of the second he came on, he never left. I think he was on the whole time. And I did a show last year, which I was very proud of, called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which was a musical, and he starred in that. Or yeah, Alex was one of the stars of that. So anyway, you can play the next video. And then we're done with the video.
Yeah.
Time I'm trying to.
No, it's okay. No, we don't.
Yeah, the Glee Project was just.
Yeah, we have time.
Just being able to, and I got, you know, I felt like I was a parent to all those kids. It was so hard to see them go. I used to come home every night and I'd be so sad after somebody got eliminated. And Kim goes, Robert, it's both groups. That group. I was going to say from the first group, Samuel and Damien, who won, they kindly came home when Kim and I got Hometown Heroes, and they sang for us. I mean, these are just the nicest kids, all these kids. From that, Ali Stroker was the first person to ever be on Broadway in a wheelchair and the first person to win a Tony in a wheelchair. So and she's on Ozark now. She's doing amazingly. Blake played opposite Peter Dinklage in Cyrano, which I saw in New York, and Goodspeed. Abraham, and he's remarkable. Abraham Lim is going to be opening in a Broadway musical, I guess, next summer. And he's now on Clickbait on Netflix. I mean, they're all doing so well. And the blonde, well, Lily is in dead, what's in a single drunk female. The blonde Shanna, who was Shanna Henderson's now Harper Gray, she's doing so well in the country world. And we just went a lot of those Glee Project kids, and I just went to see her perform in LA. So there, you know, that's what's fun, is seeing these people take off and do so well. That makes the job. That makes
thrilling.
Me.
Yeah, that's the impression I got. It's like to be around these talented, incredibly talented people, day in, day out, and listen. It's like, wow.
Oh, it was so fun. And plus my co-hosts, Nikki and Zach. I mean, it was the time of my life professionally, for sure. It was great.
Must have been exhilarating.
Running out. So I was going to say, can you put the picture of my family real quick?
Sure.
I'm sure that I've.
Yeah, we can run over a little bit. We're not on,
I mean, I've had things in my casting career. Working with James Cameron, Titanic had come out, and I was like, oh, and I was in our office and we looked at Variety and it said James Cameron's doing a television show. And I'm like, oh, I'll never get that. That would be so fun. And as soon as I said the phone rang, I had an interview and I got it. And I did the show called Dark Angel with him. That was also kind of something that kind of bumped us up a little bit. Yeah. And my partner was doing CSI and my other partner did The Mentalist. And those were two of the most popular shows. Well, CSI was the most popular show in the world. So those things helped our company grow, is what I'm saying. It wasn't just Glee, but Glee kind of put it over the top, The
top. So you were going to share with us some pictures of what your family here
is an actress, and hopefully she'll do one of these. And she has had an amazing career. My daughter is a writer, Tierney, in Colorado. I think she's the most brilliant writer. I think she's probably going to be a huge screenwriter or novelist. My son Cooper is a director of photography, and he is so good at what he does and so knowledgeable. And his wife, Paulina, is a director. And I think the two of them are going to run the industry because they're so good. And what I was going to say, one thing I haven't even mentioned that involves them too, is that I am, and I have a grandson named Dean, that is their child who's beautiful. We're going to babysit 2 days from now. I can't wait. That's easy.
Is that him? Yeah.
He's so beautiful. I started in the midst of all this. About 5 or 6 years ago, I started a production company. My website is live now. It's Stay Relevant Productions. And so because I realize I love casting, but I also love producing. I produced a movie that Blake from the Glee Project wrote called Billy Boy. And the producing part of it was the most fun I've ever had, because you're really in more control than you are as a casting director. And so I formed a production company with his brother, Mike Jenner, and that's SRP, Stay Relevant Productions. And we then produced a movie called Mail Order Monster with, that my daughter-in-law, Paulina, wrote and directed and Cooper shot. And all these movies are online. And that's a real nice family movie. Billy Boy is not a family movie. It's very hardcore. And then Mail Order Monster, a family movie. And then we did a movie called Foster Boy, which is also online, that Shaquille O'Neal came on as a producer. And so that's cool. And that's with Matthew Modine, Lou Gossett Jr., a young actor named Shane Paul McGee, who's amazing. So those are all online. And so that's what I'm also focusing on. I'm trying to get movies done right now that I'm producing. So I have about 6 slated right now that we're trying to raise funds for, which is very exciting. And I have to, when I'm talking all about casting, is give a shout out to my right-hand person, Alex Newman, who's been my right hand for years and years and years. And I could not have done Glee or the Glee Project without her. Or at that time, Alana Balding and Joe McQuillan helped me so much. And if anybody watches this, I want to get my assistant and associate now, or Daniel Schwab and Brendan Rodriguez. And these are people, if it wasn't for these people, I could not do what I do. It really does take a village.
Yes, it does. And my impression is that, and I've heard this from a few other people, like Roy Stevens here in town, that you need all these people, but you're kind of the center of it. I mean, he saw you as the center of this group of people.
I mean, I don't know. That's very nice. I mean, I think maybe just because I directed the certain things or something, I don't know. But that's very nice of Roy. Roy did a great job producing the last reunion for MPA. A great job. Yeah. And he's brought, opera back to the Valley and so beautifully. And I mean, yeah, there. I grew up with, I mean, when you're singing with people like, you know, I'm performing with people like I said, Paula Reddick and Melanie and Don Reichert and Joe Reichert and Craig Howard and, you know, all the, I mean, Bob Rowe, on and on and on. These people had so much talent. Jim Fay, it was just an extraordinary time. Annie Fraley, they were all just, it's like everyone could sing, everyone could act, and everyone had a presence. And I think the fact we were all friends made it so special, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it is time to wrap it up.
No,
and I truly appreciate you sharing your journey with us. I mean, it's a fascinating journey. It really is.
I've been very lucky and very happy about it. And yeah, so I can't wait to watch more of these things. I watched Mr. Tischer's Melanies and Vance Winters, who also is my friend, and very talented.
Well, I have, because of you and Roy, I have a whole list of names.
Oh, I'm going to give you Debbie Loeb. You should do. She's gone on to heaven. There's so many. I'll send you. Holly Butler.
Well, you know, the key for us, because we're in Modesto and Stanislaus County, is we're looking for people who have a connection here, who came here, or you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, they all from Modesto. Yeah,
and that's what's so amazing to me since I've started delving into this. Is the absolute number of incredibly talented people who have some kind of connection to Modesto, Stanislaus. And
you should also Francesco Bavara National.
Bavara, yeah.
Extraordinary.
She's on my list. Well,
thank you, and it was great. I hope I didn't do too much.
It was fascinating. Thank you so much, Robert. I enjoyed every second.
And hopefully you'll be my wife soon. And
yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got her name down too. Okay. So thank you. And
thank you.
I think we'll run over a little bit and take a look at what's going on around town. So
talk to you soon.
See you around, and
thank you.
It was a joy. Okay.
Bye-bye.
So what do we have? Do we have our list of things here? Oh, there we go. Oh. Festa. It's a celebration of Portuguese faith and culture. This is a show of photographs at the Carnegie Art Center in Turlock. It opens on February 4th and continues on until, what can I see here, sometime in March. So, April 30th, February 4th to April 30th. So what else? Oh, this is also at the Carnegie Center. It is a two-person show called Valley Focus, and it is the art of Deborah Barr and David Oliphant. So that also runs from now through, what do I have a date here? March 20th, now through March 20th. What else is going on here? There we go, some poetry.
The Eileen Jaffa Young Poets Contest is now open for submissions. Any student enrolled in a Stanislaus County school, grades K through 12, is eligible to submit up to 3 entries at $1 per entry. And these need to be original creative works by the student. There are cash prizes for first, second, and third place in each of, I think, 4 age categories. So please go to mostpoetry.org for the entry form and more information. So let's see. Please join Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center's online discussion of Stella Baratlis's beautiful book of poetry, Dust Bowl Venus. This will occur on Zoom Wednesday, February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. You don't have to read the book, just come on down. It's also available at the library, so you can borrow a copy there. And if you would like to register for this, please go to mostpoetry.org events. The Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center will present the second Tuesday poetry reading featuring Kelly Crescio Miller and John Sibley Williams, hosted by Stella Bratlis, and there will be an open mic after the two featured poets. That's Tuesday, February 8th at 7 p.m. RSVP for the Zoom link at mostpoetry.org. And more poetry. Here are two other phenomenal poets. Please join host Gary Thomas and featured readers Heather Altfelt and Troy Jollimore on February 13th. And this is the Most Poetry on Sunday series, which will also be on Zoom. And this starts at 2 p.m. Please go to mostpoetry.org to register with a Zoom link.
And one more.
One more.
If you didn't know that Modesto in Stanislaus County was a center for poetry, you will, if you just stick with it. Yes.
On Saturday, February 26th, starting at 10 a.m., there will be the annual Most Poetry Festival. This year, it will feature Danusha Lamaris, who will lead a generative poetry workshop, Knowing and Not Knowing, Navigating Certainty and Uncertainty Through Poetic Gesture. And then in the afternoon, Gary Thomas will lead a second writing workshop. For more information and the Zoom registration link, please go to mostpoetry.org events.
More? Oh, photography. The Photo Collective now has an exhibit at the McHenry Museum. And that will be there, I get the dates here, from January 31st to March 27th. So this is a group of people who have been honoring photography for many, many years, and every year they do a show. This year's show is at the McHenry Museum. And this is something we talked about last week, mentioned last week. This is Saadi Al-Kabi. I really, don't mean any insult here. I have trouble pronouncing things sometimes. So Saadi Al-Kabi. He is an internationally known artist who has exhibited all over the world and has awards from all over the world. And we are extremely pleased to be able to present a show of his work at the Mislin Gallery. And it is on now through the end of February. Do we have an example here of his work or just his picture? I guess just his picture. So lots of things are going on right now. Even though the pandemic is, what would you say, not over yet, people are starting to open up. Lots of art things are coming back online. Performing artists are starting to do their shows again. Poets are starting to come out and mingle and share their wonderful work. So anyway, so that's it for today. Tune in next week. We have a wonderful pianist, Karolina Chervatakova, who is a dramatic pianist. She's a concert pianist and also an actress who creates dramatic concerts by playing the part of female composers and sharing her music with us. So
I can't wait.
Come next week. Okay. So I'll see you then, Linda.
All right.
And goodbye for now.
Bye. Thanks, David.
Okay.